What is an estuary? Estuary is the meeting place of a river and sea. So it means fresh water from the river meets the saline water of the sea. So in an estuary, from the river into the sea, salinity will varies from 0 to 35 ppt. So it occurs in a range of salinity. So this water can be called as brackish. So estuary ecosystem can be called as a brackish water ecosystem. And the important feature of this estuary is that the river will bring sediments. And sediments are nothing but nutrients, right? So this ecosystem forms one of the most productive aquatic ecosystems in the world. And it forms a intermediate zone between the two ecosystems, right? Riverine ecosystem and the sea ecosystem. So the species availability here also very rich. It shows the edge effect. That is, the diversity of certain species is very high in this region compared to the river ecosystem and seawater ecosystem. So what are the features of the estuary? Estuary supports habitat for a variety of organisms. It includes both terrestrial and aquatic. These terrestrial organisms includes birds like pelicans, woodstrokes, and predators like a tiger, which are feeding on these animals. These are terrestrial animals, and aquatic animals are specific animals to the estuary. Like specific animals are like sea cow, sea lion, eelgrass, sea wort, seagrass, sea turtles. Like this kind of specific organisms are found in this estuary. This sea cow is otherwise called dugong. This is a seagrass grazing mammal. Dugong is a special animal in this ecosystem which grazes on seagrass. What is the seagrass? Seagrass is the grass found on the continental shelf. It is a flowering plant. It grows in the continental shelf where the water is very clear and very saline, and also this is sandy substrate. In this kind of places, seagrass will thrive. This is a specific feature of the estuarine ecosystem. And this estuary we can see mangroves also. That means estuary will support a different type of biodiversity that cannot be found in any other ecosystems. And where what are the factors that aid the formation of estuaries? Estuaries will be formed where there is a protected coast. Protected coast in the sense there will be very less wave action, like bays, harbors, inlets, lagoons, like this kind of places estuary will be formed. And what are the functions of the estuaries? Estuaries will help in groundwater recharge. Groundwater recharge, because they are having very good supply of water, so it will recharge the aquifers in the coastal regions, and it is very productive. And it will help in the regulation of the water in the river bodies. Like it regulates the tide actions. So these are the main function of the estuaries. Apart from that, it helps in the sedimentation also. The sediments from the rivers get deposited slowly in the estuaries, Otherwise, it would have been taken away by the wave action. So, these are the main functions of the estuarine ecosystem. Coral ecosystems are a very interesting ecosystem. It is very interesting in the sense it has very specific features of its own. And what are these corals? Corals are certain animals which comes in the group cnidarians. And they are called polyps. Coral polyps. And these coral polyps are calcium carbonate secreting organisms. And in coral ecosystem, the polyps occur in symbiotic association with algae called Suthandala. And these algae are photosynthetic animals, photosynthetic plants. So what does this symbiotic association means? In symbiotic association, both the organisms will be benefited. The algae gets shelter or support, because these corals occur very near the water surface. Instead of living in the bottom, this algae can easily survive on the corals so that it gets enough sunlight and also carbon dioxide. So it will get support and carbon dioxide from the polyps. And what does polyps gets in that? The polyps will get food and nutrients, including calcium. So for coral building, it gets enough materials from the algae and also it gets food from the algae. And this algae gives variety of colors to the corals. Very beautiful colors we will usually see in photographs. Coral ecosystem means very beautiful, and this color is from the algae, not from the polyps. And these polyps secrete calcium carbonate, and this forms the substrate. It will secrete calcium carbonate and the polyps will grow above them. Once this polyps lie, this calcium carbonate will be deposited here and new polyps will grow above it. These are called coral reefs. And there will be different types of reefs according to their position. For example, fringing reef. Fringing reefs form almost near the continents, and there will be a shallow water body enclosing the reef and the land. And in barrier reef, the reefs form little far from the continent. And in atolls, these reefs form in a circular fashion, and it will be a lagoon in between, or even there can be a small island in the middle of the atoll. And these are the three formations that coral reefs are available. And these reefs are very sensitive ecosystem. Very sensitive in the sense they need a certain range of physical factors, physical parameters for their survival. Otherwise they will die. And these are like temperature. They are very temperature sensitive. The temperature should be in the range of 20 to 21 degrees Celsius. And depth of the water should not be more than 60 meters. And salinity should be in the range of 27 to 30 parts per thousand. And the location is 30 degree north to 30 degree south. That is tropical or subtropical locations. These corals cannot survive in any places other than the places satisfying this criteria. Apart from that, there should be less sediments. That is, the water should be almost clear. If it is more sediments, the polyps will just choke and die. And this type of corals are called warm water corals. There are other type of corals called cold corals or deep water corals. These are found in the colder regions, But generally when we tell about coral ecosystem, these are these tropical warm water corals. And how this ecosystem become very important, let us see. These systems are one of the most productive ecosystem. This productivity is comparable to the rainforest on the terrestrial ecosystem. Sometimes more than the productivity of the rainforest. How this is possible? We saw that this ecosystem survive in the places of less sediments. Usually in aquatic ecosystem, when productivity is more, it means that nutrients are more and sedimentation is more. But here, it has very high recycling capacity. They are able to recycle the scarce nutrients very effectively. For example, these corals will capture nutrients not only from its own ecosystem but from the surrounding ecosystem also. For example, from floating phytoplanktons, it will get its nutrition. And because of this high nutrient recycling capacity, it has become one of the most productive ecosystem. And this will give shelter to many marine organisms, many vertebrates, invertebrates, fish, different types of organisms live in close association with the coral reefs. And the diversity is very high, so that even though it is occupying less than 1% of the total surface area of the ocean body, it will support almost 25% of its diversity. It means that 25 among 100 marine organisms will be present in this coral ecosystem. And this feature makes this ecosystem very important. And I have already told that its productivity is comparable to that of the rainforest, sometimes more than the rainforest also. So what are the functions of this ecosystem? It protects the coastline. Like it will form either fringing reef or barrier reef or atolls. So it will protect the coastlines from the wave actions, surges, tsunamis, etc. And other than that, it will provide substratum for the mangroves. We saw that these coral polyps build reefs, and these reefs will form a place for the mangroves to grow. Next is, it is a carbon sink. So this property is very important because these organisms will absorb carbon dioxide. It is a carbon sink. And next function is its productivity. So it supports high biodiversity and is highly productive ecosystem. So these are the important factors of a coral ecosystem.
For engineering services general studies video lectures, visit www.iesgeneralstudies.com. For mechanical engineering video lectures and question and answer discussion, visit www.getnet.com.